It was an awesome first week of college football, and we had some great uniform news, exciting new combos, a lot of stuff. Let's get into it after the break. Okay, got some quick hits this week. I don't want to go over every single game, but I want to talk about some things that stuck out to me as pretty exciting. As you can see, I'm ducked out. They will be on the list, don't worry. Starting out, we have the state of Virginia. Both Virginia Tech and University of Virginia had very similar uniforms. Both made by Nike. Both wore white helmets, orange jerseys, orange pants. I thought it was amazing that the two schools from Virginia that play football wore nigh identical uniforms. I don't believe I've ever seen Virginia football wear all orange like that. Typically they have some navy blue thrown in. Virginia Tech is more known for, at least back in the day, they wore more of their maroon with the orange as a highlight. Here the maroon was the TV numbers on the shoulder, but not the main numbers and not the name. So it was a very strange look. It was predominantly orange and white, and the maroon really took a backseat, which is kind of crappy because they're one of the few teams that mixes that color up. UVA was pretty exciting, but it was ironic that they looked the same. All right, so let's get to my next two. I have screenshots going up over here. Hopefully you can see them. You can see what I'm talking about. The other part that's interesting, they're both made by Nike, but UVA had a more red tone. It was a redder version of orange, whereas Virginia Tech's was more muted, which at least makes them look a little different if you really want to compare them and nitpick like I do. So, all right, second news of the week. Everyone's been talking about this. The poor punter from Georgia Tech, who had the jersey that was seemingly, it didn't even look like it was made for a defensive lineman or some type of 400-pounder. It looked like it was off the production rack being sold at a store at 6XL, and it just wasn't bought because it was horrible. The irony is that as a punt returner, you especially don't want something that people can grab onto. Now, back in the day, receivers used to wear loose sleeves because as they did their moves, it created more of a visual effect. It made it more apparent when defenders were grabbing them. That's kind of gone away. Some receivers still wear the loose sleeves, some don't. So for him to have a loose jersey like that, there's no real grabbing on a punt return, on receiving the punt, so there's no pass interference. So it's really just making it easier. I don't know if that was a scrub. I didn't look up the story for that one because I just want to leave that as football lore that this guy decided to wear that jersey and it was a horrible decision. But it looked ridiculous, and I think everyone can agree on that. Hopefully he finds a better jersey going forward because that was horrible. Third note of the week. For me, it still feels weird seeing Miami wearing Adidas. Growing up, Miami was a Nike school. They were basically, they were as associated with Nike as Oregon was. They had new uniforms every year. They had multiple combinations. They were integrating their green, orange, white. They had all sorts of combos. They didn't really do many helmets, and that's fine. They didn't need to. They have the iconic U on the white helmet. But Nike really seemed to fit hand in hand with what the University of Miami was, the swag and everything. Everyone always talks about that stuff. The last few years they've been with Adidas, and it seems that they've had the same jerseys the entire time they've been with Adidas. They're very plain, and the problem I've had with Adidas, it goes back even to Adidas being traditionally a soccer manufacturer, is that they come out with a template and they use it for all their main teams. They don't really give any specificity or creativity to their main teams. They don't give any. Maybe lately on the stripes on the shoulders they'll put some kind of design that says, oh, we're near the mountains or we're near the water. But Miami, if you look at it, I'm going to show it here, they're wearing the same jerseys that University of Washington is, which is ridiculous. And there's probably other examples of this too if I look harder, but the first one that came to mind was Washington. And when you're going to do shoulder stripes like that, the sleeves don't actually go around like they used to. Again, I'm not trying to make this a sleeves episode, but it is coming into the story again. If the sleeves don't wrap around, having this half stripe, it's a bizarre design. I think they could do better. I think Adidas could do better. I don't know if they have some special uniforms coming for them, but I don't know if this is a Mario Cristobal thing, because when he was at Oregon kind of had some generic, even for them, uniforms for a few years, which was unfortunate. They had, it looked like just like a bland, random green jersey with yellow numbers. The Justin Herbert years, if you can think back to those, they didn't have anything too special those years. So I don't know. Interesting to me. It also seems in some of the pictures, I can't tell. I watched the game. It did look like this version of orange was also super red. And it's not just my TV. I'm looking at it on multiple screens. I'm looking at I hope my eyes aren't bad. But it just seems that Miami always back in the day was a classic, almost like a naval orange. Literally Florida, state of Florida, orange. And it's not meant to be red. So Adidas, step your game up. Or Miami, please go back to Nike. That's all I can say. Okay, now we're going to get into a semi-serious one. Tulane University in New Orleans. The 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. Very sad. I can't believe it's been 20 years. I hope people are still healing and everything's getting better down there. I haven't really visited. I went through one time in 2007 when I was on the way to a boat on a cruise. So much love for New Orleans. I have some friends down there. So anyway, I didn't know all these years. I never knew Tulane was in New Orleans. I had no idea. I was not aware of any universities being in New Orleans that were football schools. So I didn't know that until 2005 when the big story happened. So when the news broke that Northwestern didn't want to wear their dark jerseys, I was like, well, that's weird. I mean, maybe Northwestern's home and they don't want to do that stuff. But I found out it was a home game for Tulane, so I was like, well, why can't they just wear white and tell Northwestern? Apparently in the NCAA, it's different than most other sports, or at least NCAA football, I should say. The away team is wearing white. That's in the rule book. If the home team wants to wear white, they have to petition the away team and say, can we please do this? Normally, you figure, unless there's some rivalry or some issue, you'd have no problem with that. Especially with the anniversary of Katrina, and they wanted to honor the same way that Tulane had a home game 20 years ago, their first game after the issues with Katrina, and they had to wear their white jerseys because that's the only one they had. They had no decals on the helmet. It was very much like a thrown-together equipment situation just to get them back on the field. So they wanted to honor that and wear the white jerseys at home with no decals on the helmets. Northwestern said no. So I said, that's so weird, but the only thing I could think of, maybe gamesmanship, but also a lot of early season games are played in the heat, midday type of thing. Wearing white is traditionally one of those things that's looked at as an advantage. A lot of NFL teams, especially ones south of the Mason-Dixon line, ones in southern states, they will wear white almost all year, but at least into October, because it's still so warm. The heat doesn't absorb on white as much. It's like, with sunglasses and with eye black and stuff. But with the uniforms themselves, there is science behind it that a darker uniform leads to a hotter player. So when you have someone coming to Miami, it's like, hey, put them in their dark uniforms, make them sweat a little bit more. So I can maybe think that Northwestern wanted to avoid having their players play a game in midday in Louisiana heat like that. But it's a very touchy situation. Having said all that, I think Tulane did a great job with what they could wear. Their uniforms are amazing because of the colors. Green, blue, and white. It's not done really together that much. It's like the old school Vancouver Canucks, maybe. The blue being a subtle color. Blue is usually a dominant color, so the blue being I don't know what to call it, but it just makes the green pop a little bit more. So I think that's an amazing combination. Having no decals on the helmet was a beautiful way to honor things. I think it was, it's unfortunate that it had to be a headline in a negative way, but all things considered, Tulane's pretty awesome. If you're familiar with Tufts University, they also do something similar with blue and brown. It's like, well, how is brown a good color for sports? Even the Cleveland Browns barely pull it off. Blue and brown sounds horrible. If you do it with the right hints of blue on the brown or right hints of brown on the blue, it really looks good. So and very few teams, professional or otherwise, do it. So hats off to Tulane for being something special. All right, last story of the week. I'm going to talk about my Ducks. I love their uniforms this week. I love the yellow helmets, the new feather design, really reminiscent of about 10, 15 years ago with Marcus Mariota there, a lot of the successful years with Chip Kelly. I'm not sure I like it better than the O design on the yellow helmet they had last year for the throwback. I think that might be an overall better general helmet for them going forward. But they seem to mix them up. Every year they have a difference. Like, for instance, I originally just wanted to compare this to last year's opening week helmet, which was the all green. It was green apple, they were calling it. Yellow face mask and the yellow O. It was beautiful, but it was also kind of plain, and they were wearing it with the mono green, which I hate. I like some type of change. So the yellow pants, the yellow helmet, that's the way to go. I think a green O is the best. However, the feathers they're growing on me. I have to see how they look in future games. I don't know if this is the primary helmet. I have to assume it's the primary helmet for the year, but we don't know. With Oregon, you really never know what's going on. So it's interesting to see that they kept the jerseys from last year. Those were a huge hit with fans, and I loved them. I think both the home and away are great. I can't wait to see what the special ones are this year. It seems they might just be taking a year off from innovation, which is cool. I think maybe next year we might see some type of 25th anniversary of the 2001 team with Joey Harrington. That was, a team that basically was in this. They could have been national champions if things were counted differently with the computer poll and all that crap back in the day. So that'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. So all in all, I think it's a beautiful helmet, but I'm not sure if I like the O with the nice stripe off the middle. There's plenty going on both helmets, and overall I think they either one fits the uniform. So we'll see how the season looks going forward with the Ducks. All right, uniforms of the week. One's going to be obvious, one's going to surprise you perhaps. First, it's a tie, so it doesn't matter. The order, I was just talking about the Ducks. Let's put them out there. Oregon Ducks. I thought this week they looked beautiful. I liked that they went with the non-mono. They went with the Oreo look, as it were. Yellow, green, yellow. They look perfect. They did well against Montana State. All in all, things look up for the Ducks this year. Can't wait to see what they come out with going forward. Second team, South Carolina. Typically, I don't like black uniforms, especially when it's mono black. Something about the matte helmet, the Gamecock logo, the red with the C, the jerseys themselves have the white writing, but then the garnet on the sleeves. Something about it really pops and just really looks good. So tie for best uniforms of the week. My favorite uniforms of the week between the Oregon Ducks and the South Carolina Gamecocks. All right? I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like and subscribe. I will be back every single week of the college football season, and I might do these for the NFL also, just to talk about the best things I liked, the things I didn't like perhaps, what was going on, what the stories were, what you might have missed, what you should look into going forward. It's a long year, and these manufacturers get really creative with what they can do in college football. It's much more creative than the NFL, so that's why it's exciting. So we'll see you next time. Have a good one.